Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blow.
Welcome, race fans, to the start of another thrilling event of the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. Round 2 is coming to you live on slow motion broadcasting. Today, we bring you scenes from Mogriad, Pest County, Hungary, where the famous Hungaroring resides. Famously known as the first host for Formula One behind the political Iron Curtain in 1986, this track has become world-renowned and the host of many racing series from motorcycles to sports cars and Formula up to Formula One racing. Nicknamed Monaco without the barriers, this twisty and bumpy circuit makes quick laps and overtaking difficult no matter the conditions. 2.72 miles and 14 twisting corners presents many challenges for our Formula 4 drivers today. From the high-speed horseshoe corners to blind crests, the victor in today's event will have truly earned it. I'm Kennan Miller on the call. Alongside me is Ron Maunz, and these beautiful images are being produced by Ron Maunz's clone, Ron Maunz. Last week was a wet and wild race, seeing Trevor Burns take his victory in just as many races in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. The track conditions today look much better, very overall dry conditions. So, Ron, what are you expecting to see from the field today as qualifying is just getting underway 3 minutes in?
Well, Kennan, if I'm being honest, I'm expecting these racers to maybe have a little bit of jitters as we head off into this round of the championship. Here at the Hungaroring, this track is always one that can test the driver's patience more than anything. It's a little bit surprising when you look at this track. You don't usually think it's going to be too much of a test, but whenever you get the opportunity to run here, either in these F4 cars or whatever kind of machinery you may be running around here in, it's always going to be a bit of a test. I think these racers are going to have to be on their A game and make sure that those preseason jitters are well and truly behind them, because if not, maybe a bit of a tricky race for these racers.
Absolutely. This course really presents a lot of difficulties. There's a lot of very high-handed corners as we see James McDonald going through turn 2. And you see he loses the rear end. This is a note I made. And this is the one corner where losing the rear end is just so highly probable. You have to get on the gas early. It's going to create a lot of issues. Many of the corners are very much the same. It requires a lot of commitment for all of the drivers. And right now, as you see it, we're just getting first times in. Max Lotto, new to the series, had a really good performance last week, getting third place on the podium, has found himself atop the board of the early laps. James McDonald, not here last week, was able to be here. He kind of alternates from the Formula 4 and Formula 3 series. He is now in second place, just 6 tenths behind, and then David Hirsch only 2 tenths behind that. So times are kind of starting to come in, and it'll be quite difficult to kind of see how things happen. But I think what we saw from James McDonald there will really highlight what we'll probably see out of a lot of this racing. Some very difficult corners. You're going to lose the rear end. Being able to stabilize these cars is not as easy as it looked on the camera. And we're really just in for an exciting event today.
Yeah, this is going to be a handful. As I said a few moments ago, talking about the nature of this track, I think the best way to describe it, Kennan, is that it's very unassuming. You look at this racetrack and think, okay, it's going to be rather cut and dry. When you drive around here, however, it is anything but. We're going to be seeing drivers from newer, less experienced racers to some of the veterans here of this series begin to feel the burn, and a little bit fascinating to raise that as well, considering that this track actually played host to a round of the season back in season 4 of 2025. I was actually on production duties for that as well, and I remember that race being a bit of a barn burner. This track can put on some good racing, but even if you get a lot of experience running around here, it's still going to be as tough on the 100th lap as it was on the first.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was actually fortunate enough. I've taken a few laps here the last day or two, and I still don't know if I have quite the handle on the track. It's very unique to how we see many other tracks. This track doesn't really like a whole lot of names. Really, the only corner named on this track is turn 4. It's the Mansell corner, a very blinding left-hand fast corner. And outside of that, everything else is really known by the numbers. So as you kind of get to learn and understand the track as we're riding off in the nose of Jacob Guyton going through turn 7, 8, and 9, it's just really almost, it's very similar to like an S's, but it's not. It's maybe comparable to Spa Francorchamps in the end of that lap in the way it's kind of back and forth, but there's really just no names. There's no way to really familiarize yourself with the course. You're gonna kind of have a little difficulty getting used to it. And like I said, I was very fortunate enough to do some laps here, and I still don't feel like I know this course very well. And there we see Traber Burns, last week's winner, new to the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 series. He's come up with a bang. He's not making friends among this group. He's clearly shown up and making sure he wants to win this championship and leaving nobody behind. Fifth so far on the board, and there we go. We see him just absolutely clipping that curb, almost a little wide going through that Mansell corner, turn 4, the only named corner really on this course. And it just brings a lot. So we'll ride along with him for just a moment as we bring it into the hairpin of 6 and 7. Gets every bit of the curb he can, and now you're going into 8. You really don't want to use too much brake, a little too much curb maybe there from Traber on this lap. And Sam again going into 9. But overall, a very fluid lap, but you can just see it's a lot of weight shifting. There's a lot of high load on the tires. The one thing that is certainly notable, we don't see it too often in this Formula 4 series, but tires can be an issue here. It's very easy to lock them up. You can overheat them. You're not too much concerned about the wear, but the heat you put into the tires will become extremely difficult by the end of this 20-minute event. As we see him going into the final corner through 13, through 14, coming up on a little bit of slower traffic, shouldn't affect this qualifying time. It seems like, albeit a little bit of a rough lap, it was a clean lap, so we'll have to kind of see what he gets on the board if he improves anything. And he does improve a little bit, goes over Jacob Guyton, gets into 4th position. Don't know the exact lap time, but 2.216 off of David Hirsch, so about 1.2, 1.3 off of the top lap of Max Lotto at a 1:43.982. So pretty good lap there, I think, by Traber Burns. I don't know if he was expecting to come out firing off the gates week 1, but he set the standard for week 2, and 4th place maybe he just isn't cutting it. We're only 9 minutes into this qualifying session. There's going to certainly be a little bit more time to try and improve it. And there we see David Borden goes across the line and improves himself into 6th position, knocks Aaron Wagner off of that spot. So there's certainly a lot of shaking up to be happening here, and I think we're really setting ourselves up for a good race. You see all the orange throughout the overall leaderboard, and that really tells you just what kind of race we're going to have. And let's not forget the Formula 4 series when we were here last time had an absolutely extravagant race. Just a lot of up and downs, a lot of drafting, a lot of abilities where passing was just really the key in setting it up for that. And I think we're due for another race like that again.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Kennan. We're going to see a bit of drafting, bit of these racers feeling the burn. Speaking of a huge sideways snap, heading out of the final corner, trying to figure out exactly what car that was heading out of the final turn when that moment took place. It was hair-raising for sure, though. That right there, I believe, was Ken Glasser, yet to set a time of the moment here in this session. Very easy to get your lap times invalidated here, so that's going to be something that we have to keep our eyes on in the final 5 minutes of this qualifying session, I should say. These racers just need to keep it clean, have a banker time, and I think that could be part of the reason why Max Lotto has a 1-second gap over James McDonald. As much as we talked a few moments ago about how close this qualifying session is, and really from McDonald all the way down to the likes of Diego Posado and Albert Diaz down there in 12th and 13th, pretty close for the most part. I think the biggest gap is the one between Swanbeck and Eggert, but look at the gap between Max Lotto and James McDonald. That is, I mean, a second gap around this racetrack, even in these plucky little Formula 4 cars, that is a vast yawning chasm.
It really is. Max Lotto has come out here. He was quickest in practice the first week, last week when we were at the Motorsport Oschersleben, and unfortunately didn't quite have the luck to get the winning result, but did find himself with a great starting 7th and finishing on the bottom step of the podium in P3. And so far he is looking super hot and fast. I will let you in on a little secret, and we don't know what kind of mechanical issues they may be dealing with today, but earlier in the week, Max Lotto was competing in one of these races and had a slight mechanical issue with his system, found himself all the way at the back of the grid. We don't know where that can stand, and there we see David Hirsch jumps up to 2nd on the board, kind of playing a little leapfrog with James McDonald so far for who's going to get to start 2nd alongside Max Lotto on this grid. And I think you bring up a good point as well, Ron. I think now's a good time. We'll bring up the points. Speaking of Ken Glasser, putting himself in an absolutely fantastic position after last week's performance in the wet. Runs a totally clean race, really moves up a lot of spots. And actually with that in the new points penalty system that we've seen incurred throughout all of the Sim Racers Group series, Ken Glasser finds himself in 6th with 11 points, which is an absolutely fantastic start. We've always noted Ken Glasser throughout all the mini seasons. I just want to make sure we highlight him because he has put himself in an absolutely fantastic position for the start of this point season. But as we see the points lie, Traber Burns, your victor last week, 25 points. Jacob Guyton, 20 points. Max and Lotto, bottom step of the podium, 16 points. Ryan Chia, Greg Meyer, top 5. You can kind of see the rest of the list with excluding Ken Glasser, everybody else kind of where they finish. One position behind as the way the points run. And now that we're kind of getting into the second race, this is where the points will really start to shake up. We do a 12-week season here with the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. There's a couple drop weeks, and now that we're kind of getting through week 2, this is where if you have 2 bad weeks in a row, it can really put yourself in a position where you have to have 10 good weeks if you want to see yourself winning this championship. So right now it's really all kind of starting to shake out. It seems early in the season, but things get spicy very quickly here. And as we're kind of looking on to the 41 car of, I believe that's Ken Glasser actually, whipping around on the final 13 and 14, looking pretty clean. We'll see. Hopefully puts down a little bit of a lap time here. Hasn't put one on the board yet. You see he gets a good wide exit. That final exit is one of the spots you talked about, Ron. There's a lot of areas on this course where it's very strict on track limits. It's very unforgiving. You can't use much of the curbs, and if you bring that car too fast the curbs, you will even catch a slowdown, which proves really difficult. And there we see Ken Glasser coming out of turn 1, puts down a really nice lap last time in 11th place. Pulls off a 146.886. So looking right now, the top 10 drivers are all within 2 seconds of each other, which is quite quick. I think when we get into the race, the one thing that we will see is the drafting is going to play quite a big effect. We saw it the last time we were here. The straightaway, most importantly, you get a good exit, you're able to handle the run. It's going to set you up into a really fast position into turn 1. And then from there, anything's on. It's game on as you run into turn 2.
Yeah, with the downhill braking zone for those racers to try and tackle as well. Turn 2, bit of a silent killer around this racetrack, honestly. We've seen many a racer run into difficulties there, either very deep into a race or even at the very start. My mind flashes back to Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen coming to blows through there back in 2017, if I recall correctly, and really shows you the surprising challenge heading off through turn number 2, that downhill braking zone. A little bit of shade thrown into the midst of the track can be a little bit cool as you head your way through there, but either way, gotta be very tough. But qualifying about to be drawn to a conclusion here, kind of the checkered flag out to these racers on their final opportunities. Let's see what James McDonald can do as he comes across the line in the number 26 car in just a few moments time. Currently qualified in 3rd, about 8/10 and some change off of Max Lotto. Will he try and close up that gap a little bit? I don't believe he is going to improve, so that is still going to be P3 for the Canadian.
Yeah, pretty good lap time from James McDonald. I think if we had a chance to speak with him, he'd be pretty happy to start 3rd on the grid. Obviously, there's a couple spots better, but he put in a lot of time this week to be able to understand the track. He's a very quick racer and giving himself a good spot. I think leaning into your point, turn 2 is one of those spots where it's really easy to lose the rear end. There's certainly a couple other spots where you really have to try and maximize every little bit that these small wings on these Formula 4 cars really give you. And it finds yourself having to almost overdrive the corner. And there we see David Borden actually knocks McDonald back to 4th. David Borden running a 144.651. So we're not totally settled yet. It looks like maybe we still got several drivers coming to try and finish. We're looking at Jacob Guyton. We'll see if maybe he can do anything to improve as well. Normally more at the front of the grid, takes a little bit of a wide exit, doesn't get everything to the curb there. I don't know if it'll improve or not. We'll have to wait and see as we're running on qualifying. He really does. He goes into the top 5. That's really incredible. It seemed like the exit, maybe he didn't have it, but maybe he knew he found a lot of time earlier in the lap that there was no need to get over risky on the final corner. If you could kind of just neutralize that corner, you can maintain where you were. So that is quite a thrilling qualifying we just had there. There's several drivers, and I will remind us all, last time the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series was here at the Hungaroring, it was an absolute madhouse. We had drafting, we had dives into turn one, we had crazy moves, just like you mentioned, between Verstappen and Daniel Ricciardo going into turn two. In that corner, it's a really tough corner. You can sometimes get passed on the inside going in, but if you're able to keep that grip even on the off-camber corner, you minimize their exit, you really set yourself up. You're going side by side all the way down to that turn four, that famous Mansell corner like we've talked about. So quite an incredible qualifying there, really, as we sort of see, and we'll be able to finalize and give you the official starting grid here in just a moment as everything wraps up. And I think we're looking towards to a really good race, Maran. It's Hungaroring really never disappoints. This is really a driver's track. It's obviously historic for a reason, and in a way, it's still one of the few tracks you've got. And there we see it. Drivers are starting to line up right now. We got the starting grid. Max Lotto, your pole sitter, 143.982. Absolutely flying lap. Certainly your front runner in today's race. Starting alongside him, David Hirsch. Then we've got in the second row, David Borden, James McDonald, Jacob Guyton, Jose Navas starting in row 3. Traver Burns, a little tougher than last week's start, starting in row 4 alongside him. Aaron Van Wagner, last time we were out here, is winner, so certainly one to circle on. Dan Swanbeck starting in 9th and Bob Eggert in 10th. Ken Glasser in 11th, another good performance. And Rudy Samudio starting in 12th.
And then looking through a few more starters, Diego Posada in P13, Dan Clark in 14th, Albert Diaz in P15, Sign Nathan in 16th with Isaac Amon. That's actually Jason Cotcher, who's doing a little bit of undercover captaining earlier on. He is going to be starting in 18th. I don't believe he will be taking a start, and Walker Fultz did not set a qualifying time. So those are your starters for the race here, Kennan. It's going to be a good one, as you just said. You know, this track is... I think probably the best way that I could sum up this racetrack is it is a ninja. It is lurking in the darkness, lurking in the background. It's never going to be out in front waving a gun around. However, it's going to be there in the background, and when it goes in for the kill, it will really go in for the kill. So I have a feeling that this is going to be perhaps maybe one of the most challenging races from the entirety of this season. Just waiting for a couple more drivers to line up. Dan Swanbeck, Diego Posada, Isaac Amon mainly. However, once we get those drivers on the starting grid, I am going to be keeping my eye on that run down to turn number 1, because we are going to have a mad scramble if we have ever seen a mad scramble before.
Absolutely, and as you can see, the lights are getting ready to go on. Max Lotto clearly prepared and ready, staring straight. We'll have to see what happens alongside him with David Hirsch. And there we are. The green flag is out. Lights have dropped. Away we go. 94 of David Borden makes a really hard cut to the inside, cuts off James McDonald. Looking inside, 3 cars all kind of peeking in. Max Lotto is going to be forced to take the wide line around. Everybody's so far pretty clean. No brake lockups. Max Lotto side by side with David Hirsch coming through out of turn 1. And they're side by side right now, racing for the lead. What a start. Everybody looks to be clean. I don't see any incidents. Trevor Burns having a little fight with Jacob Guyton. And there we see Max Lotto able to hold off through turn 2, clearing his way past turn 3 and up to the Mansell corner. Pretty clean start overall. David Hirsch riding above, and as you can see, he's hanging very tightly. A little bit wider through that corner. Max Lotto using everything he can as we head into 5 and 6, running our way up into the famous chicane. Only 4/10 separate these drivers. This is a very close start. We've got still everybody throughout the pack looking pretty clean. Maybe a little issue between Dan Clark and Rudy Samudio, but the entire pack right now is also separated between just a few seconds. We're off to quite a clean and away run. Max Lotto is out for the run.
And I think Lynn Lotto may be able to bring that gap out a little bit more because David Hirsch had a bit of a wiggle as he headed his way off through the S's, following him and now running on board, heading down into the third to last turn around this racetrack. There's a lockup. This may be a loss of P2 for him. Look at David Borden all over the back of him. Side by side racing a flare up. Hirsch briefly gets abducted by a UFO. Will he be able to jump his way up into second? Will James McDonald be able to jump his way up into a podium spot? I think his Max Lotto going to take advantage of that and drive away. Hirsch, Borden, McDonald, and Jose Navas, veteran here in the Sim Racers Group world, really going to give us a battle as we head our way down into turn number 1 at speed for one of the first times in this race.
Yeah, and there you see James McDonald taking the wide line, looking to maybe get a run, a hard dive in on David Borden. Not able to quite stick it all the way as to settle behind him, but Max Lotto, an absolutely fantastic opening lap, gets himself 1.5 seconds ahead. That's going to be able to break the draft. He's not going to have to worry about David Hirsch being able to really suck up behind him on the front stretch and do anything with it, but certainly the fight for second, third, and fourth so far is still unsettled after the opening lap. We're riding right there, as you can see, the entire pack: Borden, McDonald, Navas, Burns, Guyton, Van Wagner, all of them running right in a row as they go through turn 4. Everybody seemingly looking to have a handle of their car, and there goes Jacob Guyton falling to the back. So we'll have to check to the back. Jacob Guyton losing 4 or 5 positions there. Maybe ran himself a little wide through turn 4. The car looks all be in one piece, still going forward. But this is going to create a lot of changeups. You see a lot of orange, a lot of yellow on the leaderboard right now. David Hirsch already falling 2.2 seconds behind Max Lotto, clearly proving to have the dominant car so far in the opening stint of this race. But there's still so much left to be unsettled, and we'll have to maybe go back and see if there's a little mishap with Guyton there. That's about the only real issue we've seen. Rudy Samudio maybe having an issue spinning out a little bit, but outside of that, everybody's kind of kept it right underneath them. It's pretty good racing all around.
Yeah,
and there we go. We're going to look at it.
Yeah, trying to figure
there
out
we go.
exactly. That was a curb whack for sure.
I'm surprised to see the full spin from Jacob Guyton. Did a really good job keeping it off the wall, getting the thing back up to go into speed as quick as possible, and really minimizing the damage. And he's already gotten back past Dan Swanbeck and Bob Eggert as he passes by. So already back into 9th place. Not looking too bad for him so far. And here we'll look at the 7 car of Dan Swanbeck, and he spins around 2 in turn 4, loses the rear end. As we know in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series, damage is off. This is very much a developmental stepping stone league or 20-minute races. We don't want to see drivers having damages like that and putting them out of the race. That just teaches nobody anything. So doing pretty well. And there we see Samudio going through the chicane. Does a nice job locking it up. Doesn't hit anything. Has to turn it around though, but that'll certainly explain why he's 14 seconds off, really 20 seconds off of the leader so far. But right now we're looking pretty good. We're looking on at David Hirsch and David Borden following right behind. Very tight competition. Max Lotto still pulling away strongly at 3.2 seconds now. He is got quite a pace here. This could be a very dominant run for the victory, and the fight right now round might be for second. I think at this point Max Lotto is absolutely checked out.
Yeah, you see the chaos that's going on here at the moment. Well, relative chaos with drivers really close together. These 2 drivers packed in like sardines. This 3-car battle really flaring up between Navas, Burns, and McDonald. You compare that to Max Lotto, who's basically on he's on Wednesday cruise at the present moment. He's just sat back, relaxed, having a chill out barbecue in third. Look at that view from the front end of this number 3 car. It is just clear asphalt right in front of him. Now, there is no better feeling to have behind the wheel. However, for everybody, it's going to feel rather alien because look at this. That's Hirsch and Borden kind of chasing each other's tails as they head their way downtown to turn number 1, running it off into the pit wall nearly. I believe there is a similar dance that was done by Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello here back in 2011, and that was a pretty touch and go moment there. I think they tried to do their own little not necessarily off-brand version of that, but basically their version of that at a much slower speed in these F4 cars.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think to your point, David Hirsch and David Borden having quite a David battle right now is really costing them on time from catching up to Max Lotto. You can see they've started to kind of keep their pace, holding a single file. They're not getting overly racy, but it has to make you wonder, at what point does David Borden feel like he can get by David Hirsch and have an opportunity to maybe run down Max Lotto? We're already 6 minutes into this race. Time clicks off very fast in these races. It seems like it's just flying. And right now there you see David Hirsch still holding off David Borden, certainly not just going to give it away, but right now I think David Borden's got the faster machine. It's just a matter of how you can get by. Overtaking at the Hungaroring is very difficult. Now we see them diving down a very tough downhill braking zone into turn 12. You really want to maximize getting onto the gas early, and David Hirsch does a really nice job of entering and exiting that corner. Breaks away almost half a second off of David Borden, so they're starting to settle in, but you can see there's a couple angry drivers behind him. Jose Navas in fourth, an absolutely spectacular run. He really needs one after last week's finishing position. And then Traber Burns, last week's winner, is right on his tail trying to play the draft. And like we talked about, you can see them all snaking up and down the front straightaway, just doing everything they can to get a little bit of a toe, just anything to get them that extra tenth that makes them feel like they can make a move to make a pass. And it's just not quite there yet. It just takes that extremely well exit off of the final corner in 14 to make it happen. And so far, these drivers aren't finding it to really see the change in positions that we were expecting.
Oh, as we can see, a little bit of a wiggle there from Navas heading off through turn number 2. He may be at risk of losing a spot to Traber Burns. I was just going to say, we're going to see a bit of a convergence going on between the likes of David Hirsch, David Borden, Jose Navas, Traber Burns, and James McDonald, who's still there at the back of this fight. I think he's just looking at these drivers and trying to size up exactly how he can get a move done sooner rather than later. I thought these drivers were going to start to kind of merge into one little clump, but that clump has now broken up. We still have your top two, relative top two, as Max Lotto's just driven off into the sunset. You got David Hirsch and David Borden running in their own David versus David battle there for the final 2 podium spots. And then you've got the Navas, Burns, and McDonald fight, which I feel like they had a brief break to try and close up, but ever since then, just hasn't really worked out. And I feel like the level of aggression that we're seeing from Traber Burns may decide this. Look at how darty he was with the steering, and even still is a little bit darty with that steering wheel, trying to find any way in the book to get his way past Jose Navas.
Yeah, and you can see Traber Burns is certainly putting the pressure on, riding right off the front nose of him. Looking at Jose Navas as they come off the final corner, turn 14 onto the front straightaway. A really nice exit from Traber, a little bit closer there. We can see David Hirsch and David Borden also dicing up front as well. But I think Traber Burns is maybe putting himself in a spot. You see Jose Navas has to choose to defend it. Traber Burns thinks almost of it. He has to pull wide. What a move by Traber Burns. Tries to bring it back out wide. He is going to get the run off the corner. We'll see if he decides to use it. Jose Navas having to close off that inside. This is one of those corners. If he can get a good entry, he can really pinch off Navas on the exit. You see them, that corner just wants to throw you off so bad. And there it is, Traber Burns on the inside of Jose Navas. They're side by side going to turn 4, and someone's going to have to make a decision here. This could end really bad. Jose Navas looks to back off.
Whoa!
Just a little bit in the file in. Oh my goodness. Traber Burns still side by side. And there's James McDonald. There's contact. James McDonald into the rear of Jose Navas. Jose Navas goes around. James McDonald's able to go by. I know the stewards will have to talk about that. That obviously breaks free. Traber Burns is still right in the dogfight of it all. And wow, what a move, Ron. That is really quite something that'll certainly be talked about after the race.
Yeah, there's got to be some frayed nerves when everybody thinks about that incident as well. It just felt like a boiling over of tensions, frankly. You had James McDonald trying to capitalize on everything, Jose Navas trying to defend, Traber Burns going for a gutsy move. You also had a bit of a sideways snap as he headed his way off through the fast kink of 4. We're going to load up a couple of replays here because there's a lot of stuff going on in the span of just a couple of moments, and to say it was dramatic would be a bit of an understatement. So let's spool up the replay here so we can kind of break it all down, maybe even drop it down to half speed here. So you can see Jose Navas on the inside. That keeps Traber Burns honest. He hops the berm a little bit, hits the curb. Now the thing is with these F4 cars, they're basically like a skateboard without the wheels. You have little clearance on the ground, so as soon as you hit the curb, you're going to be done for. And then Navas and McDonald making contact. I think that was just a general fraying of nerves. If I'm honest with you here, Kennan, I don't think I could really assign 100% blame to any of the parties involved.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I think that's just kind of part of racing. Traber Burns really, he almost got lucky with the contact between Novice and McDonald because he went wide enough. I'm sure he most likely caught a cutting the track penalty, but with the time he was sort of given with that contact, there was certainly plenty of space for him to give that up and easily still handle it. And now he is 3.5 seconds ahead of Aaron Van Wagner, who's managed to get past both James McDonald and Jose Novice. So quite a good gaggle of cars there. You see all four of them running together: Van Wagner, James McDonald, Jose Novice, Jacob Guyton all along. And there we see Jacob Guyton on board above his head. You can see the whole group in front of him pushing to it.
No!
Novice is around. Novice is around, loses the rear end all by himself, collects Jacob Guyton. Both of them start to get underway now. They don't lose any more positions than they did the time. But oh my goodness, what a mistake by Jose Novice. We brought it up. One of our firm runners in last season's series, Jose Novice, has certainly gotten off to a struggle in week 1 and round 2 here so far at the Hungaroring. And there goes Dan Swanbeck getting by Jose Novice as they're all starting to get things together. So things are really dicing up. Jose Novice is finding himself under pressure. And wow, what an absolute mistake. You know you hate to see it, but these cars, they're so tempting. You see as we look on the replay, it gets over that curve so good. It's so hard to get that car back going left all the way back to the right. The rear end just goes around on him. He holds up the brake. Unfortunately, Guyton has nowhere to really go, gets into the side of him. And thankfully, they're both back underway. Not a major loss of time, but still, nevertheless, an absolute terrible mistake. You just see too much speed, a little wide on the corner of the steering inputs. It just sends that rear end around. These Formula 4 cars, it's worth reiterating, 160 horsepower, only about 1,200 pounds. It's a very light power to weight steering ratio, and albeit they maybe aren't producing like a Formula 1 car. And there we see Diego Posada and I believe even Ken Glasser there in front getting loose in turn 1. Makes you wonder if anything is on the racetrack. And now we're back live there. We can see Dan Swanbeck is really seeking on Jacob Guyton right now. I think if he can gain up this 7/10 difference, he will be right there in a fight for 7th place.
Unfortunately for him, I think that charge may be stalled out, at least temporarily, as you can see a slowdown penalty being applied to him as well. Now, I was heading off through turn number 4, the exact same section of the racetrack that we saw things end in disaster for Traber Burns a little bit earlier on. Same sort of deal with Aaron Van Wagner. He's got a slowdown penalty. Right as he's trying to apply some pressure to McDonald, he gets a slowdown taken care of. Swanbeck has not. If he doesn't get this served, he may pick up a black flag. Okay, it looks like that has disappeared. We're not seeing a black flag replace it. That was very borderline. We've seen that number 7 car go a little bit deep, heading off into the braking zones more often than not here. We saw that with the running wide moment out of 4 that gave him the slowdown. Saw him go for the move on Jose Navas just a little bit earlier on here in this race, and running wide once again out of the final turn. That's going to sacrifice his run. Meanwhile, right in the back, a shot. Looks like Bob Eggert and Jose Navas going to start to battle here soon, Kennan. We were thinking that this race was going to be battle heavy, and it turns out it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely had battles all throughout the field right now. You can see it, all the orange numbers that we have on the leaderboard. It looks like 4 really good battles right now. David Borden looking on David Hirsch. We're obviously looking on Bob Eggert, trying to maybe make a move on Dan Swanbeck here, taking the inside. Swanbeck with the better line, though, going to be able to get it over. But I think Bob Eggert might have a decent run going up to turn 4, so he may not be able to take it here, but certainly applying pressure right now, and that's kind of what we're seeing. These drivers are really applying pressure all the way through. Max Lotto is still out to a almost 6-second lead. His pace is sort of slowed down a little bit, but he's still maintaining quite well. But Bob Eggert looking on Dan Swanbeck is certainly one to keep an eye on, and I don't think this race is really settled by any means. We're already over 15 minutes past in this race, just under 4.5 minutes to go. Now we're looking at that battle between David Borden and David Hirsch. Borden just kind of tasting on the tail. You can kind of see this. I think both are comfortable in speed. There's still at least a few laps left in this race. You don't want to miss time in your pass for any position too early and allow yourself to get caught back. And that's kind of what we're finding right now. David Borden taking it gracefully out of turn 14, following right behind, staying right in that slipstream of David Hirsch all the way down past the white line near the pit wall. That is quite extreme. And you see David Borden going outside with a deep dive on the outside. They might be side by side going into 2.
Oh, and that nearly worked for David Bourne. It didn't, but he still has a good opportunity. As you just said, heading down to turn number 2, he thought about once again heading into the braking zone. That's a good spot to get a move done. You gotta be brave, though. I think Bourne deciding to back out of it a teeny tiny bit. This is a good spot for him to run at the current moment. P3 still rewards some pretty nice points, and this is pretty much what these drivers feel like is a battle for the win, considering how far off Max Lotto has driven off into the sunset. 6.3, nearly 6.4 seconds farther up the road. These two basically feel like they're battling for the win. But even with that being said, early on in this season, I mean, we have 12 rounds of action here in the Sim Racers Group world, both in the F4s and the F3s that you can catch every single Tuesday and Wednesday night here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. However, with it being a 12-round championship, you can afford to occasionally take it a little bit easy. These drivers don't have to run at 10/10s all the time. I feel like if they do that, it's usually going to end in disaster. Kennan, you can speak to this a little bit more than I can, considering you've been covering this series for nearly a year now. This is a kind of championship that rewards consistency.
Absolutely. The Sim Racers Group Formula 4 obviously rewards the cleanest racer, hardest charger. There's certainly bonus points that can really be advantageous towards not needing to take that extra position, but I don't think that matters right now. I think David Bourne wants to make sure he's the king of the Davids, and he's got the run. You may see him dipping into turn 2, and there he goes. David Bourne peeks it inside. He's going to go inside on David Hirsch. He makes it stick. Hirsch is able to keep the momentum. It's going to give him an advantage going into turn 2. David Bourne leading just by a nose as they're side by side, and there it is. Hirsch gets him back. Going through, we see the crossover. Borton's going to get a really nice exit. He's going to be able to carry the run. Unfortunately, as difficult as that turn 4 is, there's only so much you can do as we make the run up to it. But yeah, I get your point, Ron, and especially with this new stewarding penalties and things. If you do make a pass, you have something egregious, and you caught yourself with a penalty point, that's only going to hurt you worse than to take your third. So you have to be smart. You have to be gentlemanlike. You have to make sure you do things the right way if you're going to make a pass. But at some point, I think during these races, they're racers and none of that really matters. It's all about getting by the guy in front of you. So we're seeing it right on. David Bourne just absolutely on the tail of David Hirsch right now. This is by far the best race we've got going on of the night as we see them whipping through turn 11, coming down that downhill. Such a heavy braking distance. It's very easy to lock up the brakes. One of the areas you can really take advantage of a mistake. Both cars get through pretty nicely, and there we see Max Lotto coming around the final corner, I would presume, to take the white flag one more time for Max Lotto. Almost broke into a 7-second gap. I would assume it'll be that by the end of this race. Absolutely dominant so far from start to the white flag at least, and we'll see if he can make it around one more time to capture that checkered flag in his first victory in his second race with the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. And here we see David Bourne taking another look on the outside. He has to check up a little bit to not make contact with David Hirsch. There's a little bit of separation there, but now's the time to go. If you're David Bourne, it's time to throw everything you've got at David Hirsch and make a move to get by him.
This is a time where you got to break out that kitchen sink, remove the pipes, and chuck it at your competition. Now, who's going to be able to throw that sink the fastest? We'll just have to find out. But I think it may be advantage Hirsch as he heads his way off into the middle sector for the final time here in this race. Borden still within striking distance. Draper Burns kind of running in a pack all by his lonesome as he has to go a little bit farther behind to find James McDonald and Aaron Van Wagner, who are currently duking it out. This is a battle for 4. Oh, no! They both wipe each other out right as they're starting a battle for P5. And look at Guyton.
Between Aaron Van Wagner and McDonald, and there goes Guyton by them all. Guyton finds himself into the top 5 now. He says, thank you. You guys fool around. I will gladly take that position as he comes out of the chicane. And wow, what a change of events. I really didn't expect those two to have contact. Aaron Van Wagner, our winner last time we were out here at the Hungaroring, has not had quite the race he wants to have, but today has been Max Lotto's day. from start to finish, on the pole, everything you could ever think of. This car's been absolutely beautiful for him. Takes one more time out of turn 14, brings it down to the checkered flag. Max Lotto is going to be the victor of round 2 here in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series at the Hungaroring. And David Borden coming to the line, not going to quite have enough to actually get it by David Hirsch, but that will seal up the podium. And there comes Traber Burns, sealing off a really nice second run in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4, getting fourth. But Max Lotto, David Hirsch, David Borden, that is your podium finishers today. So we see everybody else getting through. There goes Jacob Guyton on the front stretch, an absolute, I'm sure he's counting his blessings right now, going from 7th to 5th, all in the matter of the final lap. Absolutely thrilling finish run. This was really everything we could expect from the Hungaroring.
Oh, and there you can see the dive that didn't work out too well. Aaron Van Wagner going for the move on James McDonald, heading off into turn number 5. That turn is tricky. It feels hairpin-esque. It's not a hairpin, but it feels close enough to it whereby you'll count it as such. And unfortunately there, the two cars coming to blows. I'm sure Aaron Van Wagner not feeling happy about that move. James McDonald certainly not feeling happy about that move either. Hard racing here at the Hungaroring very easily can end in tears, and unfortunately for those two on the final lap of the race, it did. Just waiting for Cy Nathan to come across the line before we can load up the final results here from the second round of the championship. I will say, if you have enjoyed this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, how about you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any of the racing action. Got a lot of action to look forward to here tomorrow on Christmas Eve. I'll be running that show solo. That'll be Sim Racers Group F3 action at the Nürburgring at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Pacific, and we'll be able to have a look at a Santa tracker as well during that. We're gonna have a heck of a lot of fun tomorrow here on SMB, and along with that, we also have SRG F4 action coming up at Maunz for the next round of the championship here, Kennan. And I also heard that for that Maunz race, there's going to be a bit of rain in the mix. And now my graphics card is going to be quivering upon that news.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, though. You just don't know what you've really got with the weather until we really get to the track and unload. Last week, round 1 at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, there was a totally unlikely chance of rain. And I think that's probably the worst monsoon I've ever been in the booth to commentate for. So we'll have to see if it actually kind of comes through next week as we get into Monza. But let's take a look at our finishing final results right now. As we know, Max Lotto had an absolutely dominating victory today, winning by just under 8 seconds, 7.913 over David Hirsch, getting the second step on the podium, and David Borden just right behind him, finishing side by side to take up the final step of the podium. A real mix of Davids we have there on the podium. Then we see 4th place, our last week's winner, Traber Burns, Jacob Guyton in 5th. James McDonald with quite a send there, going into 5, finds himself still in 6th, and Aaron Van Wagner, an unfortunate recipient of that move, finds himself in 7th. Bob Eggert in 8th, Jose Navas 9th, Ken Glasser 10th, Dan Clark 11th, Diego Posada in 12th, Albert Diaz in 13th, Cy Nathan in 14th. Dan Swanbeck had a lot of issues. Normally someone we see up front finishes 15th. Rudy Samudio in 16th, Isaac Ammon in 17th. And as Ron mentioned, I think the captain may have been sneaking in there in 18th, but did not take the grid. So that will take all of our finishing results. Really well done race so far. And hopefully as these drivers start to kind of get themselves unbelted here down in the paddock, we can maybe get ourselves to catch up with them. And let me see if I have a chance to kind of see. Oh, and there's our race winner. There's our race winner, Max Lotto. Let's see if we can catch up with him. Yeah, Max, this is Kennan up here in the Slow Motion Broadcasting booth. Well done today. A fantastic victory, start to finish, led it dominant. Really had no issues or any real fights from behind you to worry about. So how are you feeling after today's race?
Yeah, you may think like being up there, just take it easy, but I was nervous of any, spin. That left-hand downhill is really scary. But I think, what let me pull away was, David and David's fight behind us the entire race. So they kind of let me pull away, and, I can't wait to go back and watch them fighting.
Yeah, it was. It was an incredible battle of the Davids there, and David Hirsch was able to kind of take him over the top on second. Obviously, nothing you were able to really see from the mirrors yourself, and just an absolutely dominant victory. And I know this is only your second race ever here with the Sim Racers Group in the Formula 4 Series. Had a really good outing. We talked to you, or I don't know if we talked to you last week, but you were third on the podium last week, and now you're finding yourself on the top step. First time winner in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. Like, how does that make you feel? How does it make you feel you bring this car into the series and you're able to put it right up front at the start?
Yeah, it feels great. I think I've kind of dialed it in. Figured out how the car works, and so we'll see how it goes in further races. The rain's always tricky, and so tomorrow or next week in Monza is going to be pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and you kind of beat me to it. Monza, it's kind of funny. Last week in the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, there was unlikely for there to be any rain, and we had a monsoon. Next week, it's a good possibility for there to be rain, and we really don't know. How prepared do you feel like you are if we do see rain?
I am not at all, so we'll have to run some laps in there with a bit of rain, and try and work my way around the track.
Absolutely. The rain races, they're always a fun one to get to see. They just shake things up so much, man. And before we let you go, congratulations on your first ever victory in the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. Just want to give you a moment, shout out anybody, thank anybody, give a shout to a sponsor, whoever you want to take. The floor is yours for a moment, man.
Yeah, thank you. It's my first time here, so I just want to thank, y'all for hosting this and, giving a great commentary to the race. It's always fun to watch back, and then obviously to Jason and Adam for introducing me to this great group of guys, and some great racing.
No, absolutely. The Sim Racers Group, you guys, Max, make it easy on us because the racing's just that good. It's so easy to commentate, and just an absolutely well done performance. It's insane to see you come into the series and just absolutely start ripping heads off, taking yourself to the top. And we really look forward to seeing how the next 10 weeks to go. And I look forward to maybe talking to you again at the top podium in Monza. Thank you, Max.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And I think I'm hearing right now, I think Ron was actually able to catch up with one of the Battle of the Davids, and David Hirsch. He might be down there with him right now.
Yeah, and that we are David Hirsch going to be joining us here in the commentary booth. Want to ask him about all that. David, welcome in. It's P2 for you here at the end of this race at the Hungaroring. How about you talk us through that? Because that looked like a race where you could not rest at all.
Oh my goodness, this is the fastest 20 minutes I've had since I started iRacing. What a great battle with David Borden. He was clean, he was aggressive, but we've been training together for a couple weeks now behind the scenes, and it really showed. It was a really good sparring partner today.
Yeah, and you two were keeping it, the battling was intense, but it was honest throughout. Y'all were keeping it clean, keeping it smooth, throwing haymakers at each other, but no foul play. I want to ask you about that battle, because I know as a driver myself, certainly as a commentator and a producer as well, I always enjoy looking at that, but I know from the driver side of things, it's always really satisfying to have a 2 to tango, really hard-fought battle where y'all keep it clean and just have a hard-fought fight through to the end.
It was just, I think we got spoiled today with how clean it was and just how respectful it was as well. He was throwing everything at me, dive insides, trying around the outsides, pressuring me into corners that we'd have to carry a bit more speed. In my back pocket, though, I definitely had a second to play with if I needed to turn up the wick a bit more. But he was just so close to me all race. I really had no opportunity to really open it up. I was playing defense most of that race, so man, I just had such a fun time. I'm still out of breath. I'm still trying to make sense of everything. I'm watching this replay and 4X in front of me right now, just trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, it was a wild race from start to finish. I'm sure from your perspective behind the wheel, it was a little bit nerve-wracking. I do want to take you, not necessarily away from the race itself, kind of relating to it, but considering that we are about 48 hours away from Christmas, I want to ask you about the Hess truck paint scheme that you've got. Now, my dad used to get me a whole lot of Hess trucks when I was a kid, so I want to give you the floor to talk about that Hess truck scheme, because that... I as much as my graphics card hates loading in the green chrome, I adore looking at that race car.
Oh, it's been a treat, and V Designs, Enrique, he helped me bring this to life this season. I did a prototype last season at the end of the season. But yeah, every Christmas, my parents would bring a Hess car home, and actually even before that, a Wilco car home. So I think from 1995 onwards, we have one for each year. So it's near and dear to my heart, and even before I got into iRacing, into Assetto Corsa, into sim racing specifically, you know, I've always enjoyed Hess and has a place in my heart from a nostalgic point of view, for sure.
Yeah, I need to go through and chronicle all the years of Hess trucks that I have, because I remember my dad always shares the story of going on I think it was like a 2-hour drive to try and find a Hess truck for me one year, probably
Wow.
back in about, I'd say like 2009, somewhere around there. It was either the late 2000s or the very, very early 2010s, but I always loved little holiday traditions like that. But David, I want to ask you about something that's maybe a little bit less endearing in the sense Maunz next time out with a heavy possibility of rain. Talk about graphics card frying moments. That's got to be one that also fries the brain too.
I had last season as a bar to hold myself to. I put on the wrong tires at the start last season when we were going from a wet to dry race, and I don't think I'll make that mistake again. But it's a really fun track, really fast. The slipstreams are intense there, and I think the pace of the guys up front this season it's just so competitive. It's really gonna make me work for it next week.
Yeah, man, really looking forward to seeing what the action's going to be like for round number 3 of the season to round off 2025 in style as well, David. But before we let you go and celebrate this P2, I'll give you the floor to give any thanks or shout-outs.
Tonight, it's a simple one. It's to Jason and SRG Group, all the members, all the friends I've made this year for some competitive racing, but some friendships and camaraderie along the way. And to you guys at Slow Motion Broadcasting, you guys have really brought this whole series to life and have helped bring sim racing to my family and to my friends, and just really spread the word through some really professional broadcasts. So thank you for all you guys do and for helping make this Christmas race special.
And thank you for the kind words there, David. I know from my side, it's always a treat to be on these shows, either on commentary, production, or both at the same time. But David, thank you for joining us in the booth. Well done on the P2. Have a Merry Christmas, and we hope to see you back out there on the racetrack at Maunz.
To you as well. Thank you so much, guys.
And that right there was David Hirsch, our P2 finisher. I'll pass it back off to you, Kennan, because I think we may have the opportunity to have a chat with Traber Burns.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. I've been able to catch up here. Traber, really nice run today. Started in 7th, found yourself in P4. Obviously not as good as taking the victory like you did in the opener last weekend, but just overall a really well done race. Saw quite a little battle ahead of you, and with Jacob Gutton and James McDonald. How would you describe today's finish?
The finish was for sure exciting. I wish the two guys ahead of me had started battling a little earlier. Might have been able to catch up there. But no, once I didn't get a whole lot of practice in today, and by the time I really figured out the track and was on par with the top 3 guys, there was just too much of a gap to make up for it. So yeah, lesson learned. Put your practice in, kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we noted last week, there's certainly a good bit of practice you must have in the wet for the way you perform there at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. And next week, we're looking at possibly having rainstorms. So far, we're obviously still 7 days out on the forecast. Anything can change, but if you find yourself in the wet in Monza, how are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling great. I never thought of myself as a rain driver, but yeah, with what happened in Oschersleben, that was the first time I really felt comfortable in the wet. So I bring it on.
Absolutely. I love to hear the confidence from you. Just really well done race. And, I know you're really trying to get back to the crew in the paddock and get to the other media obligations you have and so forth. But before we let you go, you want to give a shout out to anybody, your sponsor, anybody you want to thank? Glad to see you here. We're glad to have you as a newcomer to the Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series. It's been quite exquisite to see you on the racetrack so far, only 2 rounds in.
Yeah, thanks, man. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Jason and Sim Racers Group. I just moved down to the Bay Area and didn't have a sim set up with me, so it's nice to be able to come here and get my sim racing in.
Absolutely, and it's a good point. I don't think we've mentioned it, but that east side on San Jose, the Sim Racers Group facility, 10-hole sim racing rigs there. You can go check it out if you're somewhere nearby. It's certainly worth a look. It's one of the best communities you'll ever be a part of, and just totally welcoming. And it's nice to know that that's how we're able to have you here on the racetrack today, Traber. Really well done. We're really looking forward to seeing you in Maunz next week.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Enjoy the 4th place finish today. Well done. And that's Traber Burns, last week's victor, today's 4th place finisher. Off to a hot start. We'll have to check on the points when we bring you live next week from the Maunz Grand Prix circuit to see, but I would suspect he will still be your points leader. But man, we really appreciate all our viewers, all our subscribers, everybody. We really hope you enjoyed today's broadcast on the Slow Motion Broadcasting. It's been really good, and if you haven't clicked it yet, make sure to click that subscribe button. It'll keep you in tune with everything we're doing here, and we're not just about the Formula 4 cars. And then when we can bring up the screen, we'll show you what we're bringing up all week long, even through the holidays on the Slow Motion Broadcasting. So as you can see tomorrow night, Sim Racers Group Formula 3 Series will be at the Nordschleife Grand Prix circuit tomorrow starting at 10 p.m. And then this weekend, we've got Weekend Warriors Formula V at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit Saturday starting at 2:30. Then we also have Cross Series League Racing Sunday night, 8:10 p.m. coming from Road America. That is actually the first time I ever watched it last Sunday night, and that is a really good series. I'd definitely make sure to stay tuned into it. And then, of course, next week might be me and Ron back again in the rain. We'll make sure to pack a poncho as we'll bring you again Sim Racers Group Formula 4 Series from Maunz. So that is everything we kind of got going on. There's always something going on here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, and without you guys, the viewers, we are really nothing. So thank you all for joining in today and really appreciating it. Congratulations again, Max Lotto, our victor today at the Hungaroring, an absolute masterclass of how to get around this track. And we look forward to seeing you next week from Maunz. Good night.